So then, once you have decided what you want to say, then you have to figure out how to choose the medium. And there is generally a trade-off between the richness of the medium and the cost of using the medium. This is the 2014 ad spend, and this is changing. Ad spend is just how much money is spent on advertising. Television is still the leading source of advertising money, although digital is going to take it over in the near future. Digital is in number 2 position, and then come print, radio, some of the outdoor, older media. And then once you've decided the medium, then you have to choose the vehicle within that medium. So if I'm going to advertise on television, what television show am I going to advertise on? What day of the week am I going to advertise on? If I'm going to go into digital media, what AdWords should I buy? What sites should I get my ads placed on? I'm just looking for how I'm going to best reach my audience. And a couple of terms that we use to measure audience impact. One is CPM, or cost per thousand impressions. And this is kind of the way that we compare apples to oranges, because how do you compare a Super Bowl ad versus a print ad in a neighborhood free paper? You know, one costs $50 for a weekly ad and the other costs $4 million. So what we look at is how much does it cost to reach 1,000 people, CPM. So with a Super Bowl ad, even though I'm spending $4 million, I have an audience of 100 million people. What's that? How much does it reach 1,000? Let me see. Let me do my math. 4 million, 100, about 25 impressions. So it's 1/25th. So about 4%, 4 cents. 4 cents an impression. Does that sound about right? That's not bad. And with my local ad, it might cost me $50 to place that ad, but it only reaches 100 people. So I've got a much higher, again, it's a way of measuring the impact of the ad, but that's just half of it. And we'll get to the gross rating points in a second. So some of the ways that you can save money on advertising is to buy in bulk. If you're going to advertise in a periodical, if you buy a year's worth of ads in advance, you get a much lower rate than if you buy just a spot rate. And then make sure that if there was an audience that was promised, that you got your audience. Otherwise, you may be entitled to make goods. So for example, if I advertise on the Super Bowl and for my $4 million, they promised me 100 million audience, and the audience for the Super Bowl was only 90 million, then they owe me some make goods to get me that extra 10 million impressions that they had promised me. The other element of measuring your advertising effectiveness, we've got the CPM, or how much does it cost to reach an individual. But we talked earlier, is it's not that I want to reach somebody, but it's I want to reach somebody in my target audience. So a gross rating point takes both of those into account. And a gross rating point is the reach times frequency. The reach is what percentage of your target audience does an individual ad reach. And then frequency is the number of times that a person would see your ad. So if I had 100 gross rating points, that either means that everybody in the audience saw the ad once, or 10% of the audience saw the ad 10 times. So it's kind of, the gross rating point is how well saturated the target market, the target audience is. So I might have a goal of getting 500, 600, or 700 gross rating points, so that I would be sure that chances are that everybody in the target audience had at least one opportunity to see the ad, and hopefully many, because it's the cumulative carryover effect of multiple exposures that really gets people to be responsive to ads. And then you want to schedule, and scheduling, the deal here is it's all about saving money. You would think the most effective way is just to run ads all the time, because how can you possibly miss it? And that is not always the best, because there's this thing we call advertising wear out. Is after a while you get bored. So like you see a really funny ad, that's really funny, and the next time you see, oh man, check this out, and 10 days later, oh yeah, can we move on to the next one? So one of the issues we need to deal with is this advertising wear out, and then it costs money to run ads. So the continuous schedule is where you just run ads all the time. And this is done for convenience products, for frequently purchased products, where you're always trying to keep it top of mind. So McDonald's, Coca-Cola, those kinds of brands are advertising all of the time. And one of the ways when you're advertising with a continuous schedule to avoid advertising wear out is just to have different takes on the campaign. And probably the kings of this would be Geico, the Geico Insurance Company. And what is the Geico Insurance Company's advertising theme or advertising campaign? Anybody? Say again?
15 minutes can save you.
15 minutes can save you 15. Yep, that's. And is there anybody else? Any other takes on the Geico ads?
Oh, the caveman, like so easy a caveman can do it. That used to be like their slogan.
Say again?
They used to say like it's so easy a caveman can do it. That
So
was, like,
yeah, so easy a caveman can do it. And then they've got the little Geico the lizard that does it, and and then you have the total idiot. If he can do it, you can do it. But the idea is that they run the caveman ads for a while, and then when the caveman ads start to get wearing out, we move into the you can save 15 minutes gives you 15%, and then so the idea is that I'm advertising all the time, but I'm minimizing the wear out by changing the content of the ads so it always appears to be fresh. Another approach is pulsing, and this is just recognizing that ads have a little bit of a carryover effect, so I might advertise heavily for a week or two in order to get the message out to reach the audience, and then pull back on my advertising schedule for a couple of weeks because people already have it fresh in mind, and I'm just trying to remind them. And then maybe as awareness drops off or sales start to drop off, I'll run another pulse heavy set of ads, and then after I've run that heavy set, back off a little bit just to go into the reminder mode. That's a way of, again, it both minimizes wear out because you don't give your customers a chance to get tired, and it's an efficient way to advertise because you're not spending all your money all the time. And the last approach is flighting, and that's just where you have a non-continuous schedule. A friend of mine who works in advertising explained the difference between pulsing and flighting. Is with pulsing, you're always advertising, but you're advertising at different rates. With flighting, the plane lands. Sometimes you're not advertising at all. So maybe with a seasonal product, we're coming into the Christmas season now. It's already after July. So we're starting to see the Christmas ads. I have a friend who's a musician that just wrote a song just complaining about how Christmas starts on Labor Day, and he sent the CD out on Labor Day. Anyways, but the idea is if I have a seasonal product, I want to do my advertising when it's going to be appropriate for the seasonal product. You're not going to see a lot of advertising for Christmas goods in April, unless it's at Robertson's discount bin. And then we need to evaluate the results, and as we talked before, that's very difficult to do because there is usually a low correlation between the exposure to the ad and a measured response. Some of the ways that we look at that are indirect measures, such as whether you saw the ad, aided recall, and unaided recall. I had, that once happened to me is after the Super Bowl, I got a phone survey. This is back when people still had phones. And they had did a survey about ad recognition, and they said, "Did you see the Super Bowl?" And I said, "Yes." And they said, "Which ads do you remember seeing?" And I told them which ads I remember seeing. And then after I did that, they went through a list and said, "Did you see this ad? Did you see this ad? Did you see this ad?" And the idea is that unaided recall is evidence of a stronger impression than aided recall because I remembered it without any prompting. But the fact that I remembered it with prompting also is an indication that I saw the ad. It's better than not recognizing it all. So again, I can't tell whether or not you're going to buy the product, but at least I can tell whether you saw the ad, and then we can look at attitude change. In marketing, a lot of time we look at purchase intention. How likely would you be to buy this product? This is usually done in a survey situation. In political campaigns, that would be how likely would you be to vote for this candidate? and looking for the change in attitude in response to the ad. We have an interesting situation going on right now in the digital world, because in the digital world you can track, you can tie a response to an advertising exposure. So if somebody clicks on a banner ad and goes to your site and buys something, you've got the chain of I saw this ad and that ad linked to a purchase, which is very powerful because I can do a really good job of determining what's going to make that ad really powerful to get somebody to go into my site and buy something. The problem is that while I can track 100% your path from when you first entered the system to making the purchase, I can't measure all of the stuff that happened in the world around you before you got to that ad. How many other exposures to the product have you had, or how many other experiences that weren't tracked online that might also have contributed to your clicking on that ad. And so there's a risk right now in the digital marketing world of focusing so closely on the link between clicking on the ad to the product that we forget that there's also a larger marketing world that may have an important role to play, but because it's not as easy to measure, it's easy to overlook or ignore it.